Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, featuring industry thought leaders sharing problem-solving insights to help grow your business and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stewart Andrew Alexander.
Hi, and welcome to another Let's Talk Retirement conversation. And on this segment of the show, I have certified financial planner Michael B. Hansen, founder and president of Frontier Wealth Strategies, Inc., all the way from Walnut Creek, California. Now, Michael, who has a wealth of experience in the area of international financial planning, which covers areas such as financial position, protection planning, investment planning, tax strategies, and retirement planning and estate strategies, is here today to talk to you about why you should work with a fiduciary investment advisor when planning for retirement. Now, that to me, ladies and gentlemen, sounds like a very interesting topic, so I can't wait to hear what Michael has to share with us. So, if you are one of the many people who are thinking about what they need to do in retirement, you're approaching retirement, and you're considering what options there are for you out there, you might just want to down tools, log out of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or anything else you happen to be doing which may cause a distraction. And you might even want to grab a notepad and pen and get ready to take some notes as we listen in to what Michael has to share with us today. So with that said, let's welcome him to the show. Hi, Michael. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome, Michael. Now, we have about 15, 20 minutes or so with each other, so let's make the best use of our time. Briefly, in your own words, of course, describe the kinds of people who you serve and the various types of situations they find themselves in when they come to you for your help.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question. I would say that the people come to me is they're concerned about achieving their financial goals, particularly retirement. You really only get one shot at retirement. It's not like you can continue working till you're 95, so you better get it done right. And what we have seen recently, there's been a lot of debate in the financial services industry about the fiduciary standard. And I think that I could not imagine working in any other way than in a fiduciary capacity. I know a lot of my competitors, typically associated with big financial institutions that have a lot of politicians on their payroll, they're fighting that because once they have to disclose to clients that they are not looking out for the client's best interest at all times, it kind of exposes their business model as a very flawed model. And when I work in a fiduciary capacity, what that means is that I have to do what is in the client's best interest at all times. Not just about low fees, but also finding the very best investment options for them. And I don't have a menu of products and services that I must pitch to my clients. Being an independent advisor, I have pretty much the entire universe open to me. Therefore, there's a lot of responsibility for me to find the right strategy for my clients. And that's really the gist of it all with being a fiduciary.
Okay, thanks for sharing that with us, Michael. Now we have a really good idea of who you help and the various types of situations people find themselves in when they do come to you for your assistance. But it must be said, before we go any further, that anything you share with us from this point on is not legal advice or legal assistance. It's purely for the purpose of sharing information. Is that something you could just elaborate on for us very quickly, Michael?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I want to work with real situations, and therefore everybody have a unique situation. So it really is a one-on-one where we can talk specifically. So anything, whether it's tax advice, legal advice, whatever, you gotta seek out specialist advisors to cover that.
Okay, so now that we have that out of the way, Michael, when you think about those people who you help, the people you just mentioned previously, What's the most common misconception you come across while you're out there working with them on a day-to-day basis?
I would say that the clients that I typically work with, I call them busy professionals. They're very good at what they do, and they know that they need to outsource things. Whether it's the taxes to a CPA or the legal to a lawyer, investments to a person like myself. I would say though that the biggest misconception is sometimes they feel that working with a big institution is the safest things to do. Kind of along the lines of they are the ones with the deep pockets if something goes wrong. What they don't realize is that if I work for a big financial institution, I'm basically salaried or incentivized to sell their own label products and services, and not necessarily what's in the best interest for the client. So I think a lot of clients, they think that, okay, I'll go with a big, well-known brand, and therefore, I will be taken well care of. Well, the financial crisis kind of showed that that was not the case. It is still not the case, and therefore I think that finding someone who is an independent advisor with no ties to banks, insurance companies, or investment firms would be the best way to go.
Okay, so if working with big institutions is the best way to go, if that's a misconception, please share with us an example or a case study, so to speak, and obviously keep your client's confidentiality in mind, of how you have helped or even how you would go about helping somebody who had that misconception, and what kind of transformational results you were able to, or in general, would be able to gain for them, please, Michael.
Yeah, absolutely. Being independent, I have access to strategies that some of the big institutions will never get access to because we are a boutique operation. One of the examples is a tax strategy where I have had several clients that have been referred to me, and they start referring their friends and family to me as well with some of, I would say, some very unique tax strategies where we basically can cut their taxable income in half. That never will happen at some of the big financial institutions. But that, when you think about it, is that the biggest expense that you have in your working career is taxes. A lot of times people think mortgage, or they might even think health insurance, but it is taxes that is the biggest expense. And if we can cut your taxes in half, that makes a huge difference to your disposable income and your ability to save for important financial goals like retirement. So that is just one example where we've seen a tremendous impact on that it had on our clients.
As a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is certified financial planner Michael B. Hansen, founder and president of Frontier Wealth Strategies, Inc. in Walnut Creek, California. And today's topic is why you should work with a fiduciary investment advisor when planning for retirement. Now then, Michael, with that in mind, and for those busy professionals you described earlier who are listening in right now, what's one of the most common or even misguided truths that they need to be aware of, no matter what situation they find themselves in?
I would say always be very cautious when you hear the word guaranteed. There's definitely a lot of professionals out there that are looking to position a certain product and service that the companies want them to do, whether it's some particular investments like private equity or variable annuities, whatever it is. You just be very careful. There's a risk to every investment strategy out there. And if an advisor do not or does not disclose these risks, I would say be very careful, because you have to consider all the risks before going into any types of investments. And we are very happy, and we spend a lot of time, given that we are certified financial planners and fiduciaries, is that we have to disclose all conflict of interest. In our situation, there are none, but we also have to disclose all material facts. So the worst that could happen to us would be for a client to be at a cocktail party and they talk about some of the strategies we've implemented, and they ask, well, why are you investing this way? And I say, well, because Michael told me so. If that's the case, we have failed miserably, because I want my clients to understand every step of the way what they do, so they have a clear understanding of that. And that's particularly important with couples, because sometimes couples do not have the same financial knowledge about things. And it is important that everybody is on board so they understand what's going on in their financial life.
So, Michael, so far you've shared some great insights. We've spoken about some of the misconceptions that are out there that you come across, and you've also addressed some of the pitfalls or misguided truths that you just spoke about. So, if you would, could I just ask you something more of a personal question then, Michael?
Absolutely.
So, when you think about all of the people, those busy professionals that you've helped throughout your career to achieve their desired objectives, maybe it's through retirement planning or whatever the case may be. When you think about those people, then, Michael, on a deep down personal level, what does it give you, and how does it make you feel when you're able to help them to achieve their objectives?
Oh, great satisfaction. I remember early on in my career where I started working with a single lady, and, kind of the first words out of her mouth was, I don't know if I can ever retire. And we started working, we started planning, we started changing things around. And, about 6 or 7 years later, I told her, and I said, okay, you are now in a position where you can call in well. And she said, what do you mean? You can call your boss and say, well, I'm not coming in anymore. Because that's the situation you are in now. And at that time, she had felt that it wasn't as fun anymore. So, she was still scared, even though I had said, you will be fine. In my planning, I planned for you to live to 95. We haven't mapped it out. You can do that. And it took her about a year before she quit her job. But she called me up one day and said, you know what? Today was just a day where I just felt I've had enough of this. So I handed in my resignation. And I said, that is just great, So that's one of the stories that I really like the most, because this is not a person that had a lot of money, but it's just a person that had some anxiety about her financial future. And she will be able to live to 95, given the strategies that we have in place. Another example that I can give you, if I may.
Sure, absolutely. Go ahead.
Is a client that I also started working with. They had adopted a special needs child, and she was very concerned about the financial well-being of that child once she passed away. Well, about 5 years ago, she developed MS, and with MS, there's just no reversal, and it's going down. And this year, California basically introduced a new law where you can have assisted suicide too if you're terminally ill. And I remember a meeting with the family. She wanted to pass away at the spring solstice, because she basically said to me that I have more days that are not good than good, and I'm in a wheelchair. I can only use one of my arms, and in a month or two, I will basically be bedridden for the rest of my life, and I don't want to be that kind of burden to my family. So we met the Wednesday before she was going to pass away and just went over everything, and the whole family was there, and I said, this is going to be tough. However, financially, all the financial goals, your daughter with special needs will be taken care of. You never have to worry about her not being in a good place or being taken care of. Your husband will be fine. Your daughter with special needs, her sister, she will be fine too. Everybody will be fine. And that was probably one of the most gratifying moments, sitting there like days before a client is going to pass away and just saying, you can go with peace. Very powerful, very powerful.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Michael. It's always great for our listeners to know just a little bit more about, what's in it for you on a personal level. So thank you so much for being so open and honest with that. While we're on the topic of speaking about you, could you just briefly share a little bit of information about your backstory and your formal education, and especially your experience as it relates to the topic of financial planning?
Yes, I'm originally from Denmark, so if people hadn't spotted, I have an accent.
Right. I was wondering where the accent came from. I originally thought it may be from Germany because I lived there for quite a while and I speak fluent German. But now I hear the accent from Denmark. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I also lived 10 years in England, so it did get diluted a little bit. I don't have an English accent like you, but
right.
But in Denmark, I basically I graduated with both a bachelor's and master's in economics, and after I graduated, I wanted to have some international experience, and I said, well, London is probably one of the best places in Europe to get that experience. So I went to London, and I literally started working within 3 weeks of arriving there in sales and marketing, and I started working with big companies like Johnson & Johnson, Hertz Corporation in global marketing, business development. And that's where I met my wife. And she is American, and she worked for Texaco. And when they merged with Chevron, she got offered a job in the Bay Area and in San Francisco Bay Area. And, having visited the Bay Area many times, I just love that place. And when she said, hey, you feel like moving to the Bay Area, I was like, done deal. So I left for London working for really corporate America to go to the Bay Area. And I figured, well, it'll be easy for me, with all my international experience, I'll get a global marketing business development role for a big international company, and I'll travel back to Europe all the time, bringing back all the wines and cheeses that I love. And what I didn't realize was that I arrived 3 weeks before 9/11, and those jobs were just gone. So I was like, okay, I'm not the kind of person that's just sitting idle, not doing anything. And I wanted a new challenge in my life. I always wanted my own business. And so I started to do some research. And one of the things that they say when you want your own business, you got to do what you're passionate about. And if you're good at it and you're passionate about it, the money is going to come. And so I knew I was passionate about investments and financial planning. So I started looking, and that's really how I got in to financial planning, because I know I'm passionate about it. And it's the best decision I ever made, in my life. And as I said, I can work, 20 hours a day if I could, but because of family obligation and things like that, it's just that. But I'm very passionate about what I do, and I love what I do, and that's how I really got into financial planning back in 2001.
And that passion certainly comes through as you're speaking with me today. So thanks so much for sharing your backstory. I know there's so much more, but we are limited by time. So moving forward then, Michael, when you think about those busy professionals who you help, or the ones that come to you for your help, and they're listening in right now, what final thoughts would you like to share with them before we close out with our last question for today?
I would say that you always have to have options. So the sooner you start planning, the more options you have. If you leave it to the last minute, your options are going to be limited. So I would say plan early and work with someone who is a fiduciary, very important. I also like being a certified financial planner, or CFP. I think that comes with added scrutiny with regards to the kind of professionalism that they have to provide their clients. But I would say that start early, work with a fiduciary, work with someone who is well qualified.
So if there is somebody out there who feels they want to know more about working with fiduciary or with an fiduciary investment advisor, what's the easiest way for them to connect with you then, Michael?
They can either on the web or on the phone. So our website is frontierwealthstrategies.com, or they can call into our office directly as well, which is 925-930-3971.
Perfect. My goodness, the time has flown by and we are coming towards the end of the show, Michael. So, yeah, again, let me just remind you, ladies and gentlemen, who we have been listening to today. We have had the pleasure of having certified financial planner Michael B. Hansen. Thank you so much for sharing so generously with us today, Michael. You have certainly demonstrated that you are a true educator, advocate, and trustworthy advisor for your client success. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
You are so welcome, Michael. And I'd also like to say a big thank you to you. Yes, the busy professional listening in right now. Thank you for joining us on this insightful and informative discussion with one of the leading certified financial planners in the Walnut Creek, California area today. Again, as a reminder, his name is Michael B. Hansen. Make sure you do check him out. Give him a call. Visit his website. Whatever you do decide to do, I'm sure that you will be in a great place to start addressing your current situation. So that's it, folks. My name is Stewart Andrew Alexander, and we'll be back shortly with some more leading financial planning professionals in this, our series of Let's Talk Retirement Conversations. So until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present, and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.